Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Roshi.
Nice to see you all. So, I have good news and bad news. Which would you like first?
Bad.
Okay, the bad news is that I will be giving 2 Dharma talks on forgiveness, not 1. What, may you ask, is the good news?
You're giving 2 Dharma talks on forgiveness?
Giving 2 Dharma talks on forgiveness, not 1. So there was a request that I give a Dharma talk on forgiveness, and while I was thinking about it, prepping it, I realized that because the schedule is a little tight and we're trying to keep these to 30 minutes, there's really no way to cover it all in one. So I'm going to talk today about self-forgiveness, and I'm going to talk next week about forgiving others. Part of the reason why this is so complex is because the notion of self and other is fallacious from a Zen Buddhist perspective. So I could just confuse all you guys by saying, here's my talk on forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive and no one to forgive. Goodbye. But that would probably not help a lot. So we're going to delve into it. So self-forgiveness. Before we talk about forgiveness, we have to talk about self and other, because presumably there is one who is forgiving and one who's being forgiven. In the case of yourself, it's kind of like someone who's self-employed, who's paying their own taxes as the employer and the employee. You know, you're both the forgiver and the forgiven. But there's no you. So how does that even work? So we must digress for a moment to one of the 3 marks of existence, which is no self. Obviously, there's a self. I'm sitting here, you're sitting there. I'm a Zen teacher, and you're not. See, I'm just kidding, because it's not like, something to brag about. I'm a Zen teacher, and you're not. Haha. Doesn't really work. We're all Zen students. It's just that if you stay a Zen student for long enough and you practice seriously enough and you get mind-to-mind transmission from your teacher, then you become a teacher. Someone once asked me, how do I become a Zen teacher? And I said, meditate and talk to me every day for 10 years. And you'll be a Zen teacher. Whereabouts unknown on that person. I guess they didn't want to do that. But that's how it works. So I'm a Zen teacher. I'm a 48-year-old white man. I'm the former executive director of this institution. I'm the founder of this institution, one of them. I'm married. I have a son. I have 3 dogs. I like baseball. I like music. I like pickleball. So that's me. That's myself. That's who I am. But is that all that I am? I mean, haven't I basically just given you my resume? So who am I actually? It's an open question.
You're Josh.
Okay. So
Giving a Dharma talk.
Josh giving Dharma talk. Yep, that's what I am. That's who I am. And in most circles, if you ask me to introduce myself, I would be Josh White. Father, husband, behavioral health entrepreneur, whatever. However, in this context, I would introduce myself as Dainin or as Roshi. Dainin, my Dharma name, Roshi, my title. Like, being a Roshi is like being a doctor. So like when you go in to see your doctor, you don't say, hey, Doug, how you doing? You say, hey, Dr. Oppenheimer, how's it going? So you wouldn't, if you're being polite in Zen circles, you wouldn't say, oh, Dainin isn't here yet. You'd say, Roshi's not here yet. So Josh White, Dainin Roshi. In music world, I have a stage name, which is Josh Steele. Steele being one of my middle names. There's a lot of Josh Whites out there, including a very famous blues singer from many years ago, and when I was looking to put out my record, I was like, well, it can't be Josh White because there's a lot of Josh Whites, but there wasn't any Josh Steele. Cool name. All right. So if I were to go on tour with my pals in City and Color, and, you know, I was their opening band, you know, call it into existence, something I would love to do. People would be like, oh, like after the gig, people would be like, oh, aren't you Josh Steele? Aren't you the opener? Like, well, yes, but also no, because that's not actually my name. I have a sports card journal called Noma's Sports Cards, which is a play off of Nomar Garcia Parra, former Red Sox player, said in a Boston accent, being from Boston, Noma. And not to brag or anything, but I've gone to more than one baseball game and people have come up to me and go, are you Noma? Yes, I am. And I've signed autographs as Noma. So who am I? Am I Josh White? Am I Josh Steele? Am I Dainin Roshi? Am I Noma? Which one am I?
All and none.
All and none. Very good. But also, like, Maureen rarely calls me Josh. My closest, oldest friend rarely calls me Josh. He always is like, hey, buddy. There's just a long history of us calling each other buddy, and it has to do with all kinds of stupid, nerdy, geek culture from the 90s that I'm not going to bore you guys with. But, you know, in a very obscure science fiction book. But there's reasons we call each other buddy. Maureen is almost always babe. What can I say? But I mean, you know, if she calls me Josh, we're either at work or I'm in trouble. So, who am I? Am I Josh or am I babe? Or am I buddy? Or once a year, I'm Buddy the Elf.
Wait for it, it's coming.
You know, once you see the Will Ferrell similarity, you can't unsee it. So who am I?
Will Ferrell.
Low key, I am Will Ferrell. Don't tell anyone. This is literally 7 minutes of exposition to get to this. If who I am is fluid, if the self is fluid, if I have many names and play many roles, then who is the self who is forgiving and who is the self that is being forgiven? Exactly. People say I need to forgive myself. What does that even mean? There's another problem, by the way, which is that you are presumably not forgiving who you presently are. Because as far as I know, no one is sitting in here transgressing against yourself. I don't see anyone sitting in here doing anything hurtful to themselves, as far as I know. So that's a problem too, because the past you, if the current you like doesn't exist, ostensibly, past you certainly doesn't exist, right? Show me you 5 minutes ago. Can anyone show me you 5 minutes ago? Can't. And yet that person is sitting before me, right? Like I don't think Natalia is a different person than she was 5 minutes ago. That's called being psychotic. And yet, Maizumi Roshi, the core teacher in our lineage, said, if you haven't seen someone for 2 minutes, you should not assume they're the same. I don't know. Maybe something happened to you last night and now you're different. Maybe you've decided to be nicer to people, finally. Good news, everyone. Natalia's not going to be so mean anymore. Now, why do you all laugh? Why is it funny to consider her being mean? Because you never heard her say a single mean thing, and someone else said she's not. So this particular self, we don't perceive as mean. I perceive her as warm and loving and kind and sweet. Is that about how everyone else perceives her? Except the one person who's so resentful they don't even want to say it. Right? Well, actually, we can digress even further. When I was the executive director of this treatment center, I drew a lot of heat, a lot of projection on me. On any given day, a lot of people mad at me. But not anymore. When I show up, like literally everyone's happy to see me. Why? I'm literally the same person. Why? You know me a long time, and am I nicer than I used to be? Same person. And we used to work at another place before this where I was the number 2. Boy, that's the best job in the world. If you can be vice president, you're so stoked. Because you have a lot of power and authority and influence, but nobody ever really gets mad at you because you're like, well, I tried, but they said no. The person above you said no. It was awesome. Oh, we appreciate you trying. He's an idiot. Appreciate you trying. Do you magically become an idiot when you're the boss? Or when you're the Roshi, the head of the Zen Center? No. Do you magically become not an idiot when you step out of those positions and you're just everybody's pal? Because the self is fluid, it's role dependent. Depends on what your role is. So how can we forgive something that is so fluid? That's like a river forgiving itself for something it did at the head of the river, and now we're at the foot of the river. Do you guys follow what I'm saying? Okay, so having said all of that, it's really important to forgive yourself. It's really important to do this impossible thing that doesn't actually make sense and isn't not actually possible to do. Why is it so important to forgive yourself? Open question. Because you can't change the past, that's right. Also, why else?
Wherever you go, you follow. So.
Wherever you go, you follow yourself like a shadow. Yeah. One of the big points of emphasis that my teacher Dainin Roshi has put on me for many years is to become friends with yourself. I did not used to be friends with myself. I did not enjoy being with myself. So I would seek out other people, some of whom weren't healthy for me, jumping from relationship to relationship, drinking a lot, eating stuff I shouldn't eat, always activity addiction, always on the go. It's kind of funny, I was on retreat with someone once who knew me fairly well. And he said, I never see you just doing nothing. I said, what are you talking about? I meditate for hours every day. He said, that's still doing something. I had to be doing something. But that's changed. I enjoy being on my own now. I enjoy going for a walk by myself. I enjoy my meditation sitting by myself. I enjoy me. Why? How is that possible? How do you go from hating yourself to loving yourself?
Have you perhaps accepted things that happened and you cannot change?
Right. A lot of it is acceptance and forgiveness. And the biggest thing you need in order to have forgiveness is what? Starts with a C.
Compassion.
That's right. You have to have compassion. So it's very helpful to consider yourself now and in the past as a different person. And you kind of think, so if I knew that when Josh was dealing with all that, he hadn't processed his trauma, and he was really just trying to seek comfort, and he wasn't trying to hurt anybody, and he was trying to be a good person, he tried to make amends when he made mistakes, I think he meant well. You see how different that is from God, I was such an idiot. What's the matter with me? Stupid piece of shit. I deserve all the bad things that have happened. You guys see the difference there? So I would invite everybody in your meditation to think about the things that you are upset with yourself for and see if you can bring in some compassion of there were arduous circumstances, and or I hadn't been in therapy yet, and or I hadn't been exposed to the Dharma yet, and or whatever. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life is this YouTube video from Australian television. which takes place in a prison, and it's these two guys talking. One of them is an inmate and one of them is not. The inmate is there because he had a drunk driving accident where he killed the children of the other guy. And the other guy has forgiven him and they have become close. Can you imagine that? Unreal. It's unreal. It's really worth watching. I mean, it's upsetting because it involves children dying, but it's like, it moved me to tears, and it caused me to forgive someone that I had not been able to forgive. But when I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, well, the dad has forgiven the transgressor, and the mom has too. But has the transgressor forgiven himself? I kept wanting the interviewer to ask, have you forgiven yourself? And I could have, maybe I missed it, but I don't think he asked him that. Can you forgive yourself for something like that? Again, the self you are now, forgiving the self that you were back then, because it's not actually the same person. You're not who you were 5 minutes ago. You're not who you were at the beginning of this Dharma talk. You're not who you were an hour ago, who you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I worked with a guy once who had killed his sister when they were children. Not on purpose. He was just whipping this bike flag around. It was like a plastic thing that you put on your bike, and at the top was a flag, and then there was a little tiny plastic tip on the top. And he's just whipping it around because it made noise. Accidentally let go, and it struck his sister in the temple. Like 1 in a million. Like 1 in a million. You could not do this on purpose if you tried. And she died. So I don't mean to get so heavy with all this talk of children dying. I was not intending to talk about that in this talk. But how does he forgive himself for that? It was obviously an accident, completely unintentional. He loved his sister. Terrible, terrible thing to live with. Terrible. We worked closely together for a year, and that's what it was all about. It's how can I forgive myself for an accident, something that was unintentional? The guy, by the way, in jail, he does not remember what happened. He does not remember. He was not conscious for it. How do you forgive yourself for something that you don't even remember doing? But I tell you these horrifying examples to try to drive home that whatever you have done that you think is too terrible to forgive, you can forgive yourself for it. You now have authorization from a Zen master to forgive yourself for whatever it is. I can write you a prescription if you want. It's not helping to hold on to it. It's not helping to kick yourself for it. And by the way, forgiveness is not a one and done thing. It's not like, well, I forgive myself, I'm good. It's a process. So you might start with, I don't think I can forgive myself, but there's a 1% chance I can. So I'll just sit with that. That's better than I can't forgive myself. I'll never forgive myself for this. You could eventually kind of think, well, maybe one day I'll be able to forgive myself, just not today. Or you might think, well, I sort of forgive myself. There was an incident about 7 years ago that I really struggled to determine, was it my fault or not? And is it forgivable or not? And I thought about, maybe that I shouldn't be alive anymore because of this thing that happened. It was that bad. And sitting with it over a long time, what I finally came to was, well, I don't know if it was my fault or not. I can't say it was, and I can't say it wasn't. So I can't say if I forgive myself or not either. So if I've forgiven myself, I don't know, because I don't know if there's anything to forgive. I know that I don't not forgive myself. See, that's the other thing, is we never think about the third option. We never think about the middle path. unless we're Zen students. Perhaps I don't forgive myself and I don't not forgive myself is a good place to sit. Doesn't have to be one or the other. But I'm not going to sit here and just sing Kumbaya to you guys and be like, you need to forgive yourself. Let's do a meditation where you forgive yourself for everything, because it doesn't work. I want to be very practical with you guys. It's got to work. So for now, I'm assuming everyone in this room and everyone watching on YouTube has a thing that they need to forgive themselves for, like that your life would get better if you could forgive yourself, if you could let that go, right? And what do we say all the time? I'll never forgive myself for that. We hear that in TV, movies, books. We say it. We hear people say it. Never forgive myself. But I'd really like to invite you to just loosen it a little. It's like you're in a hot sauna and you're sweating and you can't breathe. And it's so hot and tight and the air is so dry. But there's a window in the sauna. And I would invite you, we can't turn off the sauna just yet. We can't get out of the sauna just yet, but maybe crack the window just a little. Just a little tiny bit of fresh, cool air comes in. Just a little bit. Just a little. You can do that. You can for sure do that. I don't know what it is that you need to forgive yourself for, but you can for sure open the window just a tiny and go, maybe after 1,000 more days of flogging myself, I'll be able to forgive half of it. Or maybe on my deathbed, I can forgive myself. Just introduce the possibility, just maybe. And by the way, it is optimal to completely forgive yourself for everything. That's the best thing. It's the best thing to look at yourself as a sentient being who's struggling. It's hard being human. You didn't mean to do whatever it was. You're doing your best. We all hurt. We all are trying to avoid pain and find relief. We've all done things we regret. So that is optimal. I think with the exception of that one thing I mentioned, I think I have forgiven myself for everything that I did wrong. I think I made amends to myself, made amends to others. We'll talk about amends to others next week, but you can write it in a journal. You can talk it out with a friend or your therapist. You can write yourself a letter and just do it on the cushion. The main thing that I have to forgive myself for, to be honest, is letting people treat me badly. I need to forgive others for sure for treating me badly, but the main thing I need to forgive is that. And it's a constant work in process. And, my main abuser died in January, and a lot of it has been forgiving her. Yes. By the way, that's the person that I forgave when I watched that show. But also forgiving myself for believing certain things, for allowing certain things, for carrying certain patterns forward into my life. And I have a very close friend who recently lost someone who was their abuser and has been very sad, and they've been kind of why am I sad? I'm not sad that this person is dead. It's well, you're sad because of who you were, who you allowed, what you... Now understand, sometimes with abuse you're not allowing anything, but sometimes we perpetuate it by further relationships or by staying connected with someone who's not good for us or whatever, right? So this person's trying to figure out how do I forgive myself for going back over and over, right? But the answer is, well, you weren't you yet. You weren't the you that you are now. The you that you were then is not the you that you are now. The you that you are now wouldn't do that. So you actually should thank the you that you were then for teaching the you that you are now what to do and what not to do. Because I don't know about you, but I'm a lot better off than I was then. So that's how you forgive yourself, is to, God bless you, understand it wasn't the same you that it is now. Understand that it's a part of you that it would be useful to forgive. Understand that you flagellating is not helping anything. No one sees you wearing that hair shirt that you're so proud of. No one's going to relieve you of it. You have to do it yourself. That's not a word. No one's going to relieve you of it or alleviate it for you. Alleviate is a medicine. It's not a thing you can do for yourself. No one's going to alleviate you of it. Alleviate it. This is why meditation practice is so important. You know, my Zen Roshi, whom I mentioned before, sometimes randomly when everybody, imagine that we're all sitting in here meditating, we're deep in meditation. He would just say this, all by yourself, alone on that black cushion. It's kind of grim, isn't it? It's like, thanks for the encouragement, Roshi. But it's true. Like, as was stated earlier, like we are stuck with ourselves always. It's like you're a Siamese twin, or we're supposed to say conjoined twin now, right? When we were kids, you said Siamese twin. You're supposed to say a conjoined twin. But it's like there's you, and then there's you, and it's like, you know, you suck. You suck. No, you suck. You know, it's like, why? If you were like literally stuck with someone, sharing a body with them, and constantly talking to them, wouldn't you want the dialogue to be pleasant? Wouldn't you want to get consensus with that person? Wouldn't it be nice if you said to that person, you're so beautiful, you're so wonderful, you're so sweet. Thank you for doing that for us. That was really great of you to do that. Thank you. That would be good. I'm not suggesting you look in the mirror or on your camera phone every day for 10 minutes telling yourself how great you are, although it probably would be good for you. But, you know, just like give yourself a break. We're all just doing the best we can. Anyone have any questions or comments?
I needed to hear every word of that this morning, so thank you.
Same.
I'm so glad. Thank you. It's a very tender topic, and I appreciate you asking for it. It's very important. Very important. Thank you for saying that. You know, as a Zen student, I try to cultivate no need for external reinforcement. I'm also a student of Stoicism. You know, it's like, well, people's praise and damnation will come and go. So we develop an inner citadel so that we're not moved by that stuff. But there's also a book called The 5 Love Languages that I'm a big fan of as a couples coach. And my love language is words of affirmation. So it means even more than you know. Like, people don't think I need it, so they don't do it. But I do need it. That's just one of the quirks of myself, which doesn't exist. The last thing I'll say just real quick is, you know, Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true, to thine own self be true. My wife Maureen likes to talk about how she misunderstood it when she was younger, and she thought he said, to thy known self be true. So we better study ourselves. So Dogen Zenji, a great Zen master in our tradition who lived from the year 1200 to the year 1253. So he whispers to us literally through the centuries, but he was a prolific writer. We have a lot of Dogen's writings and teachings. He said to study Zen is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. So see, there's kind of an interesting paradox where our self doesn't exist, but in order to really realize that, we have to first study it. So that's the dance we're all doing. To study the thing that is not real, because it is what is happening. So that's enough for today. Next week we'll talk about how to forgive others, who, by the way, also don't exist. So that should be fun. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.